Sorry for the delay in starting, Richard Madden. I know you've been asking me on Twitter what time it's going to start, and I got a bit distracted. I made myself a cup of coffee after eating some crackers, but here I am to talk about nearly 1700 years of Christianity and nearly 250 years of liberalism, which I'm saying is wrong. It's the wrong moral system, it's clearly breaking down, and, well, something needs to be done if you care about the long-term survival of your tribe, your nation, your society, and your civilization. I'm assuming most people would care about this, judging from the things said and their tone. I think people are concerned. So why don't they do something about it? But there is a problem of not being able to think straight, apart from a very few people who are able to follow the logic of what I say. What stops the people from the others who can't keep up from following what I say? That is a puzzle. I'm not a trained psychiatrist. I know there is a vice called denial, which is a particularly feminine vice. Why do women suffer it? Because women are not really expected to be able to do much about things. If they marry a man that beats them, then if they already have children, not much is going to be served by running away. There would be nowhere for you to take your children. Nobody would want you and your children. Nobody would want to marry you. So you might as well stay where you are in order and to make the best of life as it is. And living as you have lived with an abusive husband. So you will have to find ways of managing him if you can, perhaps with some advice from your parents, your family, your friends, but really you made your bed, so you must lie in it. And that is really the reason why women are more expected to put up than question and rebel, because men, being physically stronger than a woman, would easily use his superior physical strength to subdue her, as well as his control of resources and the legal system, etc., etc. But why are men behaving like women now? Why are they adopting the feminine vice of denial? Surely men are expected to do something about things that have gone wrong in their society and their civilization. Why don't they do something? I'm afraid the answer must be that it is their atheism that makes corrupt, cowardly, men of them. They are corrupt because they deny the truth or ignore it. Just ignoring the truth will corrupt you, because you are not acknowledging truth, and truth is necessary for our survival, isn't it? Truth is sacred, isn't it? We have to acknowledge the primacy of truth, because if we labour under misapprehension about the true state of affairs, whether, for example, whether it is safe to go out, whether it is raining or not, whether you live in a country and drive in a country where they drive on the right side of the road or the left side of the road. It is imperative to your continuing existence and your survival to know which side of the road you are to drive on. So the truth is sacred in the sense that it will protect you, and you have to respect it in order that it continues to protect you, because if you choose its opposite, a lie, then, well, everything is going to go wrong. Everything about your calculation will be misplaced and meaningless, because you are basing your calculations on something that is wrong. It's very simple. So we are told, or I was told anyway, that we ought to tell the truth. I instinctively accepted it. I don't believe in telling lies. But others do not see the world through my particular lens. They think the truth is a joke. They joke about lies. They joke through telling lies, calling it perhaps postmodern irony or whatever the hell they choose to excuse their frivolity and lies with. But it is obvious to the meanest intelligence, and there are plenty of mean intelligence scattered around at the bottom of the heap with the morons and vegetables. So people are stupid, or they're mad, or they're evil, or they're reckless. And it seems that they think that the only thing they are left with is looking after number one. And number one is looking after your patch, making sure others stay off it. And it is nothing to do with telling the truth or speaking the truth as you see it. And it is really this corruption that is eating the West out from inside. Its innards are being devoured, its vital organs, its brain, its liver, its guts, its skeleton even. It's being devoured by these worms of lies, these worms of men who lie to themselves. But they have control. They are the majority. I'm just one of the few people who feel compelled to speak the truth as she sees it, and I have no equal. I don't know of anyone else with an idea, and well, I'm not just, flattering myself. I literally don't know, and if I did know, I would get in touch with any other person who has a solution, but none of them do. All they're doing is behaving like ostriches burying their heads in the sand. And this makes me think that they do have a goal, but only a very short-term goal, and it is to die before the shit hits the fan. And that's why they can't understand simple truths, simple, obvious facts about Christianity being kaput and liberalism being for losers and democracy being dementia. They are incapable of asking the obvious question. They are incapable of having a dialogue because they don't want the conversation to go to a place where important considerations such as morality, moral systems, moral and political philosophy. They live in this revolving door of hope and despair. These people who have no religion, even though they claim to be Christian, because to be Christian is to not really have a religion, because it's not a belief system that is either credible or effective at maintaining your group identity. As I've pointed out many a time, Christianity is bottom of the heap as far as no-hype compliance goes. It's right at the bottom, at your feet, to be kicked around, as Christians are actually kicked around in the West, in their own countries. It is not that others attack Christianity, but other Westerners despise Christianity. And why wouldn't they? It's an absurdity that nobody believes in. Only the stupidest people believe in it. And those who claim to be clever make sure that they are never put in a position of having to defend the Trinity. And the people who want to invite Christians to Islam, they're not quite ruthless enough. I do listen to E.A. Dawa. It would take me just under 5 minutes to make any Christian claiming that Jesus is God crash and burn, and be seen to be obviously crashing and burning through defending what is morally and intellectually indefensible. It would be the easiest thing for me to do, and I have graduated from that to pointing out to Jews their omission over the centuries. Over 1,700 years of Christian history, they haven't done what they were supposed to be doing. They haven't taught anyone, not even themselves, about the harm of idolatry. I've had to do it for them, and they pretend I don't exist because they don't want to accept that where I have succeeded, they have failed. So these are abstract ideas, idolatry. We can't expect the sheeple to care about these things, particularly if they're atheist sheeple who don't care and who don't understand. Most alarmingly, Rabbi Misraki was talking about how stupid the Israeli finance and defense minister are, how they lack in a simple ability to reason and lose to even a 6-year-old who goes to yeshiva. They simply can't reason because they have been indoctrinated to believe in nonsense, and in order to maintain their status, they have to pretend to believe in nonsense. And this means not exercising their reason. I think I have put my finger on it. So obviously, liberalism is wrong, Christianity is wrong, and I have the solution, I have the intermediate step. I'm not dragging you to your latest mosque, your nearest mosque. I'm saying, here is the intermediate step between a degenerate matriarchy and your soon-to-be established theocracy, and I get no takers. But then I get no challenges either. So I think a title is helpful, isn't it? 1,700 years of Christianity wrong. 250 years of liberalism wrong. Do you want to blame the Jews for it? It won't help you, because atheist liberals have legislation to give the Jews protected characteristics. And if you don't believe in that sort of thing, you can and prefer to believe in God, then you would know that God has made Jews his chosen people and will protect them in one way or another. He may let them suffer, but he'll probably make sure there are enough Jews left in existence to say that Jews haven't become extinct. What about Islamophobia? Well, I would say Islamophobia is another example of disobeying God. Because if you hate Jews, then you must hate God. And if you hate God, well, that will be blasphemy. If you hate Jews so much you want to take away their status as God's chosen people, you are disobeying God and you are questioning his wisdom with your own meager intellect. And I don't think you need God to point out that your opinion does not matter. So it's all wrong. Well, liberalism, Christianity, so many years, 2,000 years. And who am I? Who am I to tell all these Westerners that their Christianity is kaput and that their liberalism is for losers? Who am I? Well, somebody has to tell them, don't they? It's part of the narrative of the Abrahamic God. You get all these prophets, these minor prophets in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh. They're not always successful. Plenty of executed prophets. But their existence is nevertheless telling of the spirit of the times. I have no way of telling whether I will be successful or unsuccessful. But the job has to be done, and there's no one else to do it, is there? I'm not exactly competing against anyone else. There's no one else with a solution, is there? Is there? So I'm the only one. So it'd be a pity for me to give up. And it's easy to stand tall in the land of the blind. The one-eyed man is king. In a land of pygmies, it's easy to stand tall if you are of normal height. And the lack of any acknowledgement from the establishment does mean that it is unable to engage properly or at all with anything that I've said, and this symptom of dementia is being mirrored by the people at the bottom who can't engage with it either. People who are supposed to care about their country, the national interests, they can't wrap their head round my little idea. And if they can, then they don't want to talk about it. But the title is really what I am about. I'm prepared to argue with anyone and defend my position that Christianity is kaput and liberalism is for losers. But there's a bit of a problem in that, in a way, a lot of people already agree with me. They all, most of them are not Christian, most of them are not liberal. They just can't make the next step of acknowledging that, well, these are moral systems, they have failed, and we need a new one. That is really that little bridge, that little gap between noticing that something is the case and concluding that something ought to be done about it. And I'm not getting that sort of natural reaction of, concern or logical thought or use of their powers of deduction, which I guess have been totally crushed by the idiocy of what they are required to believe in, i.e., liberalism, feminism, intersectionality, Christianity. I would say that land died, the one-eyed man was burnt as a witch. I'm reminded of, what was it? There's some Greek Cyclops. So basically, there isn't a single honest, rational, or moral person to prepared to engage. Well, this is rather alarming because Sodom and Gomorrah, if they only had 10 good men, then God would have spared Sodom and Gomorrah. But unfortunately, as few as 10 good men could not be found, and therefore Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. You would have thought that, the global nature of the American empire, you would have been able to find 10 good, honest, and rational men of influence and honor, but no. So the rot is as bad as I feared, perhaps even worse. Can it be in an empire? How many people? I'm not sure. 2 billion? I don't know. How many Westerners, how many white people are there? And how can you divide white people? You can divide them. I think Christians would be a minority. They would be a very small minority. And I would only count the Christians who have been confirmed. And hardly anybody has been confirmed. So Christianity is, to all intents and purposes, extinct. So what moral system operates? There is no moral system that operates, and that is pretty easy to prove as well. And that should be what should cause alarm, because if you don't even have a moral system, it is a bit like a car either not having a brake or an accelerator. So you're in deep trouble. But I think you prefer to ignore the problem, which is actually even more conclusive that you are in deep trouble, because if you can't comprehend the nature of the predicament you are in, then you would be even less able to well, not even comprehend, acknowledge that there is a problem, and then discuss what might be the solution. And you can't do it. Too much trouble, more than your job's worth. There was one little thing I was going to say before I go, and it is the idea of morality. Maybe this is better in a stream of its own, but I'll give you a brief idea. I know I have to repeat almost everything I say more than, well, ad nauseum really, because most people suffer from ADHD, and most people like to pretend they don't get what I'm saying. But here it is. Morality cannot be efficient if it is not based on truth and logic. So feminism is not based on a fact. It's belief. Okay, the belief systems in all ideologies, whether or not they believe in God, yes, if you believe in God, you think good and evil will be treated, good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life, if not in the next, if not in this life. So that's what you have to believe if you believe in the 5 world religions. And if you don't believe in that, you believe in communism, then you would have to believe that eventually you will get to heaven on earth through the process of dialectical materialism. And if you're a liberal, you're supposed to think that, according to the Whig interpretation of history, that do people even want it? That the progress towards liberal heaven on earth means more and more liberties being enjoyed, and the most important of which is sexual liberation from the rules of marriage and good parenting. And that is basically where liberalism has led us to. And many people don't care to discuss it, or cannot even be made to realize it, or if they do realize it, cannot see why it is dangerous to their civilization, or if they see it is dangerous to their civilization, they do not care because they expect to be dead before the shit hits the fan. So liberalism is for losers, because liberalism is not capable of perpetuating itself if it bribes voters with increasing varieties of extramarital sex to keep the voters voting. And after a circuit of sexual liberation, people will wise up and perhaps even reject it because they finally see the harm of what they're doing. And Muslims, what are we to make of them? Orthodox Jews literally believe that suffering is punishment for sin. So Orthodox Jews can reason that Muslims who come to Western countries, who hate Jews and want to kill them, are a sign of God's displeasure with Jews. And they work back, they think, well, we obviously did something wrong. What could it be? And they work it out. All those liberal Jews in Reform synagogues that are aging because they don't have children. Well, that's a problem, and that will be the future of the industrialized nations. So they're gonna keel over soon with their moral degeneracy, their sexual liberation, and their senescence, which they cannot balance out because they no longer wish to have legitimate children, because they no longer wish to marry each other, and the rot is pervasive. And because the prospect of what I propose is so terrible, people deny it and pretend not to understand, even though it's quite simple, really. Because the Jewish system, Jewish philosophy, Jewish theology is actually so beautifully simple. If you hurt, if you suffer, it must be because you did something wrong. And if you did something wrong, well, stop doing it. Go through a list of things you might be doing wrong and stop doing it. That's all you have to do. But they reject this system because they think they're too clever for it. So how are they going to solve their problems? These liberals and atheists and nihilists. Moral relativism is basically agreeing to disagree about who might have the right answer. That is what it is. And interestingly, these Christians who are basically atheists assume that God is a moral relativist. They are so stupid that they think God is like them. Perhaps it's only natural that, if you think that you arrived at the best ideology in the world, you think, well, even God would agree with you. But that would be putting the cart before the horse. But these demented people, these neurotic people who can no longer reason, have somehow got it into their heads, these Christians, that God is a moral relativist, even though, in another part of their mind, they know that God is idolatry, and they also know the story of the golden calf, but for some reason they don't make the connection that the prohibition against idolatry applies to them. And they can't explain how Jesus is God, so nothing they do makes sense. But we know, centuries for centuries they were basically tortured by their priesthood for daring to question the Trinity. And the moment they were allowed not to be punished, to question the Trinity, they disbelieved and openly disbelieved, and now they realise they have no belief system. So they believe in nothing, they have no principles, which means they can't defend the principles they don't have. And this comes to the notice of their women who feel only hatred, ridicule, and contempt for their men, and this leads to these women not wishing to marry the men of their own race, and voting for pro-immigration parties that keep bringing in men to replace the men of their own race that they cannot bear to have children with. So that is really the problem of the Western moral system. It can't even support marriage, and therefore it can't. It's not a viable model for producing the next generation or maintaining the existence of the West. So That's all I have to say on the subject. Thank you for listening.